All right, folks, so welcome aboard to the Steve Malzberg Show. Appreciate you joining us. We're going to be joined by Reverend Jesse Jackson momentarily, and we have breaking news on the latest from Ferguson. The Washington Post is reporting that there was marijuana found in the system of Michael Brown. We also have, and we told you this last week, we played sound bites from it last week. CNN is making it sound like they've just discovered this tape. An alleged friend of the police officer involved in the shooting called into Dana Loesch's radio show in St. Louis last week and said she was a friend of the officer, and the officer told his family on the night of the shooting that he tried to get the Michael Brown and his friend to get off the middle of the road. They said no. He tried to get out of his car. They slammed the door on him. Michael Brown punched him in the face, struggled with him for his gun. The gun went off. Michael Brown and his friend ran. The police officer ordered them to halt. Michael Brown turned around, mocked him, said, "What are you going to do, shoot me?" Started running towards him, and the police officer, feeling threatened, shot him until he stopped. He was not shot in the back. The autopsy showed there was no shooting in the back, according to Michael Bowden. And the police officer allegedly told the friend also that he wouldn't be surprised if drugs were found in the system of Michael Brown. So we've been telling you that for 3 days now, and CNN now thinks they just discovered gold somewhere. Anyway, the Reverend Jesse Jackson about to join us here, but I want you to watch something that was said by someone else talking about this case first. Let's watch.
I don't want to litigate this in the press. If the officer used excessive force, I think he should be prosecuted. But at the same time, let's not pretend that our morgues and cemeteries are full of young black men because cops are shooting them. The reality is that it's because other black people are shooting them. And we need to talk about black criminality. Blacks are only 13% of the population, but they're 50% of homicide victims in this country, and 90% of those victims are killed by other black people. And we need to talk about.
All right, joining us now is the Reverend Jesse Jackson, I am happy to say, who is in Ferguson, Missouri. Reverend, thank you for joining us, sir.
Very well, sir. It's very tense here today, and exacerbated by the fact that the autopsies have come out, and the clear case is that Mike Brown was killed very violently and unarmed in his own neighborhood. That the police who did the killing has not yet even been interrogated, nor has he been fully disclosed. That exacerbates the distrust between the people and the police department, which is so underrepresented. The community is about 70% African American. All the police are white except 3, and the fireman is the same. There must be some fair distribution of resources, goods, and responsibilities in the city for there to be a sense of mutual trust.
Sir, with all due respect, do we know, for instance, how many African Americans have applied to be police officers in that town? In other words, is it 2? Is it 200? Doesn't that enter into it at all?
There are, this morning I talked to a group of veterans who live here, who've been to Iraq, Navy, and Army. If they're qualified to serve in the military to defend us abroad, they can defend their own neighborhoods at home. There is no lack of qualified black policemen. There's a lack of opportunities. Furthermore, if you have a domestic violence case, you should send a man and a woman policeman to that house. You're more likely to resolve the conflict. Blacks and white police ride together, you're more likely to have better race relations. After all, in the end, the inclusion and sharing makes all of us better and more secure.
Does it disturb you at all that 3 eyewitnesses who have come forward, one of whom was in the store during the robbery and failed to mention that in his interviews on television? Does it bother you that, and was the other young man who was involved in the confrontation with the police officer, that 3 of the eyewitnesses have come forward and said that he was shot in the back, and that the autopsy, at least the family autopsy, does not show that?
Well, 2 things. One, there's no relationship between whatever happened in the store and is being killed. He was not a suspect when the police sought to pull him over for no good reason. He was not a suspect. And whatever he may have been, for him to be judge, jury, and executioner is far beyond the authority any policeman holds. I think the other point is that we should be sensitive to what a pattern this is developing around the country, why there's so much national angst about it. Whether it's the killer of Trayvon Martin walking away, or the killer of Diallo shot 41 times by police walking away, or the case of Rodney King nearly beaten to death, police walked away. This is not right. It's not fair. We all deserve better.
Reverend, in your mind, is there any circumstance under which the police officer in this case could be justified in what he did? Any circumstance that could come out?
Absolutely not. There's no evidence of a confrontation. There's evidence that Michael was armed and threatening the police. Every evidence that he was unarmed or without a weapon of any sort, and his hands were up, according to many eyewitnesses and even camera reports. And so we need not try to stretch to find out just how wrong this killing has been.
Let me ask you about the decision to bring in the National Guard. Do you agree with the governor's decision?
Well, reinforcing the layers of military is like reinforcing more scab, but you do not deal with the source of the real cancer. I just left the site of the quick food store, which was burned down, which has been a kind of gathering spot, and it's completely surrounded by police. 98% of whom are white, will not let people gather in one spot. It's a kind of de facto martial law. And when the National Guard comes in, they will enforce martial law. It will suppress the pain. It will not eliminate the pain, nor eliminate the sore. You can't get around the fact that these police and fire departments have government contracts, and yet they've not honored equal employment and contract compliance standards. I mean, justice matters. On the one hand, on the other hand, poverty and alienation are weapons of mass destruction.
Reverend, you're going back to the number of firefighters and police officers. Do you know the number of blacks who have applied to be police officers or firefighters in Ferguson and have been not appointed, turned down, whatever? Do you know the number?
I do not know the number.
Well, then, with all due respect, Reverend, then how does it matter?
I don't think the point is as profound as you're trying to make it. The fact of the matter is, if you search for a fair distribution of police and crime, you can find them. There is no lack of capacity to be a police, no lack of capacity to be a fireman. And so some positions are worth searching for, because a reasonable balance of power is a balance of responsibility. Right now you have a community that's kind of on the occupation with extreme alienation, and that really is no way for people to live in a democracy.
What do you say to those who defy the curfew, to those who come out and loot stores and liquor stores and riot?
Well, you said 3 or 4 different things. Number one, those who defy the curfew, and some ministers may do just that, may engage in acts of civil disobedience because they reject it, like Thoreau did, like Dr. King did, like Gandhi did, like Mandela ultimately did, so that there may be some defiance once it's organized, if it persists. On the other hand, we do not encourage anybody to be looting stores, nor the power structure be looting job opportunities. And I would certainly hope that we would know that the value of nonviolent discipline demonstrations, you remain focused. You can be heard. It's hard to be heard over a rocket. It's hard to be heard over the looting. And so I support nonviolent discipline direct action for change. It works.
One more, sir, and I appreciate your time, then I'll let you go and say thank you. If, in fact, there was a struggle, that if Michael Brown pushed the door, the police door, punched the cop in the face, struggled with them for the gun, and then took off, and as one video shows, an eyewitness saying and describing that he circled back and he was charging towards the officer, and the officer felt threatened for his life and felt danger and fired at him Because A, he doesn't know he doesn't have a weapon. He didn't search him. He didn't handcuff him. He didn't. So you don't see any circumstance that you know of now or that could come out that could justify what the police officer did.
You're drawing up the worst possible scenario. The fact that he could see his hands, or he could see a guy that size, he shot him 6 times, twice in the head. He unloaded his gun on him. What more do you expect?
So is your answer no, sir? You see no possible circumstance?
I do not.
Okay.
Do you?
Yeah, I just gave you one that if all those facts are true, I do see one.
But those facts are not true, and you know better.
No, I don't know better. We don't know, and with all due respect, sir, you don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we don't know.
The evidence from eyewitnesses is substantial.
The eyewitnesses said he was shot in the back, sir, and he was not shot in the back. So
well, it could be that when the shots whizzed by him, he turned around because of fear of the bullet passing.
And the police have said that the cop went to the hospital because he was punched in the face. There was a struggle for the gun. The gun went off. So I'm not making this up. But listen, sir, I appreciate your.
So the gun went off and shot 6 times.
No, I'm not. I'm just.
Be for real.
All right, Reverend, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. Reverend Jesse Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. And up next, we'll discuss it all on the Malzberg panel. You will not want to miss this panel. I promise you. Right here, we're coming back on the Steve Malzberg Show. And you know where it is? It's only, I say, on Newsmax Television. Don't you go away.